This island may be the spark that will fuel World War III. Taiwan is more important than you think. China is dead set to reconnect it to the mainland.
Like Ukraine, to be clear, sir, U.S. forces, U.S. men and women would defend Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion.
Yes.
To understand, Taiwan is fueling human civilization's evolution by producing 90% of the world's advanced semiconductors. There is a possibility of a China Taiwan reunion, a seismic shift in global geopolitics that could reshape the balance of power. This merger could empower China with control over high-end semiconductor manufacturing, directly challenging the United States' long-standing dominance in the industry. Amid this potential turning point, there are three scenarios that could play out between China and Taiwan. China is already pursuing Taiwan not with boots on the ground, but through a more subtle, high-stakes game of coercion. Instead of tanks and troops, Beijing might deploy a shadow war, a barrage of crippling cyber attacks targeting critical infrastructure, aiming not to level cities but to rattle confidence. They may use a scare tactic of military drills to send a clear, menacing message. This isn't just about intimidation. It's a calculated strategy to tilt elections, to sow discord, to fracture the will of the people. Beijing's goal, to force concessions without a traditional war, to win without fighting, to have Taiwan bend to its will by the sheer force of its power plays. This is the least likely scenario to succeed for China, at least for the foreseeable future. The chessboard is set. The pieces are moving. The most dramatic, least likely action by China is a full-blown military invasion, though it is a possibility that needs consideration. Imagine warships slicing through the waters of the Taiwan Strait, jets streaking across the sky, battalions storming beaches, a full military siege on Taiwan. Yet, this scenario isn't a one-sided affair. Taiwan, fortified with its own lethal array of missiles, stands ready to unleash a devastating counterattack that could reach the heart of China's mainland. This isn't just a battle, it's a promise of mutual destruction. It's a scenario where the economic titan that is China stands to lose more than just face. Think of plummeting stock market, international sanctions, and supply chains in disarray. And then there's the human cost, the incalculable toll of lives lost on both sides, the fabric of societies torn. For China, this path of reunification could rip at the very threads of its own prosperity and progress. The most plausible scenario is that China could opt for a strategy like a blockade, wrapping its naval might around Taiwan's neck, cutting off the lifeblood of trade. It's a tactical stranglehold, leveraging Taiwan's economic pulse points to force political concessions. By severing Taiwan from the web of international support and economic lifelines, China would thrust Taiwan into a deepening crisis, banking on fear and coercion to erode the island's resolve against reunification. Yet Taiwan is not a solitary player. It's a branch in the global network, a critical cog in the world's economic machinery. Any aggressive move by China would echo across continents, drawing a chorus of international condemnation, potentially triggering a cascade of military responses and crippling sanctions against Beijing. The Allies, countries like the United States, which has a legacy of strategic ambiguity towards Taiwan, would find themselves at a crossroads. Would they send in their fleets to break the blockade, risking direct conflict? Or would they turn to the halls of power, diplomatic roundtables, and sanctions to pressure a stand-down? Japan, South Korea, and Australia would be among the first to face the fallout, their economies intertwined with Taiwan and China, their security tied to the balance of power in the Pacific. Europe, too, would be drawn in, its leaders forced to navigate between economic interests and democratic principles. And the cost? Beyond the political chess game, the numbers speak volumes. A projected 2.8% drop in global GDP within a year, a nearly 40% contraction of Taiwan's economy, and a significant 7% shrinkage for China itself. Allies and adversaries alike would grapple with these stark realities. knowing that in this interconnected world, a blockade on Taiwan could mean economic turmoil for everyone.
China has been very clear that they will incorporate Taiwan peacefully or militarily, but that they will incorporate it from their standpoint is 100% likely.